So far, we've talked about wired ways to connect to the internet, like fiber, cable, and DSL. But what if I want internet without any cables, something I can use on the go with my phone? Fiber, cable, and DSL are great options, but they're limited to a specific geographic location. Once you leave that area, you lose access. For example, maybe I want to watch an online video or video call my friends while I'm walking in the park. What can I do to solve that problem? That's where cellular networks come in. A cellular network lets you do all of those things on the go, as long as there are cell towers nearby. If there aren't any towers, you won't have connectivity. But in most places today, this isn't a big concern because there are towers across cities, states, and even in the entire country. Most of the time, if you're in town, you'll have coverage. The main time you might lose signal is if you're deep in the woods or a remote area. Some providers like Verizon tend to have better coverage in those places, but it often costs more. Sounds interesting, but how does it actually work? First, let's talk about why it's called a cellular network. Imagine taking a large geographic area and dividing it into a honeycomb pattern made of hexagons. Each hexagon represents a cell, and inside each cell, there's a tower that provides coverage. Since the network is made up of these cells, it's called a cellular network. When your phone connects to a tower, you can move from one area to another without losing connection. Your phone gets handed off to the closest tower automatically. You won't even notice it. The process is seamless. Over the decades, cellular networks have gone through multiple generations. It all started with first generation or 1G. 1G was introduced in the 1980s, and it provided the first wireless analog voice service. Then in the 1990s, we got 2G or second generation. This improved voice quality mainly because it moved from analog to digital signals. It also introduced something huge, text messaging. At this point, we could call and text, but we still didn't really have mobile internet the way we know it today. That changed in the 2000s when 3G was introduced. This completely changed how we used phones. Now we could browse the web, stream music, and watch videos. It was the first time we could truly use our phones for internet access. Of course, it still had issues like slower speeds and higher latency. Then in 2010, 4G came out, or LTE came out. LTE stands for long-term evolution. This improved speed and reduced latency. Speeds could range from 100 megabit per second up to 1 gigabit per second, making game and streaming much smoother with less lags. There's also an upgraded version of 4G called LTE-A or LTE Advanced. This version is faster than regular 4G and is often set to support speeds from 100 megabit per second up to 3 gigabit per second. And the latest generation is 5G. 5G provides massive speed improvements compared to previous generations. It's so fast that some people are even using it instead of traditional home Wi-Fi. With the performance 5G offers, it also helps support modern technologies like IoT devices. IoT stands for Internet of Things. Devices that connect to the internet, like smart fridges, light bulbs, washing machines, and more. Since these devices often send real-time information, a faster and more reliable network helps everything run smoothly. And 5G can handle that very well. It also allows us to communicate to those IoT devices efficiently and faster. Now that we've covered the generations, let's explain two terms that you might hear or you might not hear anymore when talking about cellular networks: GSM and CDMA. These were two main technologies used during the 2G and 3G eras. With 4G and 5G, they are becoming obsolete, especially in the US. However, some parts of the world still use 2G and 3G networks. GSM stands for Global System for Mobile Communications. It became the most widely used standard worldwide. GSM allowed users to store their and their carrier information on a SIM card, making it easy to move your service to a new phone. It also made it easier to use your phone when traveling internationally. CDMA stands for Code Division Multiple Access. It was not as globally popular as GSM, and it typically didn't rely on SIM cards the same way. That meant switching phones or using your service while traveling was more difficult. Hopefully, today we don't deal with GSM or CDMA as much or not at all. because modern networks have moved forward, and most phones or all phones now work across newer standards. Another way to connect wirelessly, especially when you're far from cell towers, is satellite internet. Satellite is not meant to replace cellular service, but it's better than nothing when you're in remote areas like desert, mountains, or jungle. It gives you internet from space, which can be extremely useful when there are no cell towers nearby. Just keep in mind that satellite internet usually has slower speeds, and factors like distance and weather can make the connection even worse. However, newer technologies might have improved satellite internet speeds. That was about cellular and satellite internet. Thank you.